Yeah, we'll speak into the microphone.
Thank you. We're on the air.
Hi, I'd like to call this workshop of the Newmarket Town Council to order, and we will please pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I should say today's December 18th, 2019. Councilors Dumont and Cast are not here. They're excused, and they should be here for 7, but they couldn't make it at 6:30. And I will go ahead and give the floor to the chair of the Conservation Commission, Patrick Reynolds. And
Hi,
Thank
good
you.
evening. Nice to be here in front of all of you. I'm happy to be here to be talking about the Clark Farm. The Conservation Commission at our last meeting did vote to support contributing towards the purchase of a permanent conservation easement of this property. A little background about this. This is a project that we are working with the Southeast Land Trust on. And this is a great opportunity for the town, we feel, because although we can make that contribution towards that permanent conservation easement, one of the big challenges we face is obviously land management. We're a relatively small organization with a small budget, and it's hard to manage land. And so by partnering with CELT, we get all of the benefits of the conserved land, so without any of the costs. So this is a one-time cost for us. It is $95,000 that we will be contributing or propose to contribute towards this. And Jeremy Luigi is from CELT is here, and he will give us more details on the overall breakdown of the budget. I think the other important thing to emphasize is when you look at the original sort of plan for preserving land in Newmarket that dates back to the original open space plan that was made almost 20 years ago now, that one of the values, obviously beyond just conserving land that the public would have access to, but also land that is contiguous with other conserved lands. And the Clark Farm is contiguous with other conserved lands that we currently have in Newmarket. It's in the northwestern corner of Newmarket. So if you think of Wadley Falls Road being one border, Camp Lee Road being the other border, and if you know where Doe Farm is, that subdivision, and New Roots Farm and Tuttle Swamp, those are the borders around the Clark Farm that is in Newmarket. And Jeremy does have a map that he's going to provide you, so you'll know exactly where this is. But it is really the northwest corner of town that we're talking about. So, so again, we're talking about property that is contiguous with other conserved lands. Public access is part of this conservation easement. So currently people access it to do things like cross-country skiing, walking, hunting. They use the power line corridor to snowmobile. All of these are currently available and will continue to be available in perpetuity for the residents of town. So again, the values here that we're looking at when we're proposing this are land that's being conserved. There's also a very unique quality of this property in that it's a working farm, and it would remain a working farm. So there's products that are available to the public to consume. Jack can tell you a lot more about what his farm does, but they do produce both beef cattle and lamb. So, it's a great opportunity for people to buy locally produced food. And their vision for this property is to have it perpetually farmed. They're setting it up so that, that next generation of farmers can come along and continue have it as a farm. So those are the things that the Conservation Commission was considering. We're looking at, one-time cost, continuous access, conservation values in terms of contiguous lands. Again, in perpetuity, obviously, if something was to happen to CELTA as an organization, it would come back as far as the conservation easement. It would come back to the town at that point, but we don't anticipate that happening. Feel pretty confident about that. So I think that captures really why we voted and we had a unanimous vote on this, that people feel strongly this is a good deal. But I would like to give Jeremy an opportunity to give you some more details, and Jack Clark is also here who can also give you more. If you have any questions for me, though, we can come back to me. So I'm going to go ahead and cede my time to Jeremy.
All right. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about, why Southeast Land Trust is working on this project. So, and just to explain what we handed out, the first map is obviously an aerial photo of the farm property. The one right on the reverse side is similar to this. It's just sort of a zoomed out version. It shows just the wealth of protected land in this area. Just to make sure everyone, I stare at these maps all the time, so it's easy for me, but not everyone does. So you have Tuttle Swamp here, Ash Swamp and Wadley Falls here. We have New Roots Farm right here off of Doe Farm Road. And what did you say you called it?
Wigan Farm.
Wigan Farm, right here. So there's a lot of conserved protected land already there. And Jack and Linda have already conserved another portion of their farm right here, which drops down right to the Lamprey River. This is the thread of the Lamprey River running here. They protect that land, and the land on this other side is Flag Hill. So I think that'll give you a little spatially sense of where this farm sits. It's really remarkable. This is a 210-acre property that we're looking at conserving. There aren't too many of those left in Newmarket, particularly that haven't either been protected or, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, developed. So it really is an area with a lot of conservation. Actually, if you add up all the contiguous conserved land in that area, lost it.
So come back.
There we go. It adds up to over 4,000 acres, which is, we just don't come across that down here in the seacoast too often. Here's another shot. This is a shot looking in on the fields from Camp Lee Road. Camp Lee Road you can access from Grant Road or from Wadley Falls Road. And the frontage along Camp Lee Road is actually in Epping. This is the Epping Newmarket town line, but the vast majority of the property is in Newmarket. So just speak a little bit. I do want Jack to tell you a little bit more about the farm, but just very broadly. Just very broadly, some of the things that CELT really cares about, important farmland soils. That there are only certain soils that you can really grow food and raise livestock on. That's these colors here. This is prime farmland and statewide important farmland. Very limited amounts of that down here on the seacoast. And as you can see, this property, and the reason you see so much of it is, New Roots Farm here. There's a lot of agriculture in this corner of Newmarket, which isn't typical if you were to zoom out. The Clarks work with UNH. They host workshops on the farm, so they're fairly well known in the livestock circles. May not be something that everyone, the larger public is aware of, but they are a resource for pasture-based livestock operations. There's a picture of Jack and some of the sheep on the farm. Just wanted to give you a visual of what the farm's like, what they're up to. Agriculture isn't the only reason that CELT is interested in protecting this property. As I said, the Lamprey River is just downslope from their farmstead area. Lamprey River, as you probably know, is used for drinking water supply in Durham. And this hashed area here, which encompasses most of the property, is what the Department of Environmental Services calls a hydrologic area of concern, which is tied to Newmarket's drinking water supply. So this is actually protecting this land, is helping to protect the quality of the drinking water that Newmarket uses. It's also a very important property from a wildlife perspective. There's habitat for Blanding's turtle, which is a state endangered wildlife species. That's something that CELT is really keen on protecting. There aren't a whole lot of those around. Here are some pictures. These are Jack's draft horses. This is a picture of the farm. Again, to orient you, this is Flag Hill in the background. So this is the side of the farm that's already protected, and we're going to be protecting this side of the farm. This is a shot of one of the farm roads that it goes back and connects to some wooded trails that are great for cross-country skiing, etc. So I think Patrick more or less explained the project structure, but essentially what we're hoping for, CELT would be the primary holder of the conservation easement. We're already working with LCHIP. I'll talk about that in a second. But LCHIP and the town would hold what's called an executory interest, which means CELT does all the stewardship, all the monitoring for the easement in perpetuity. If something were to ever happen to CELT, the town would have the right or the ability to step into that role. LCHIP would have that same opportunity. We've also already done applied and received a federal grant from the Natural Resources Conservation Service in the amount of $400,000. They would hold what's called a third-party right of enforcement, which means if there's something on the property that's happening that's not allowed, they can step in and enforce that too. It's actually something that we really like at CELT, because it means we're not the only ones standing there, holding the bag if there is a violation of some kind on the property. It's nice to have the feds behind you when it comes to that. Not that that would ever happen with the Clarks, but this is a perpetual easement, so you never know a couple hundred years down the road. So we've already negotiated the general terms and the cost of the easement, and the Clarks have signed a sales agreement agreeing to sell at a certain price to CELT. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. This is just a picture from the LCHIP awards at the beginning of December. As I said, we received $150,000 from LCHIP. So this is a breakdown of all the fundraising CELT has done to date. So we have $400,000 from the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The Clarks have agreed to donate a large portion of that sale price. LCHIP has contributed $150,000. NRCS has another easement program which we're going to be using for about 30 acres of wetlands on the property, and that comes to about $144,000. And then some of these other are smaller. They pay for some of our transactional costs through the Great Bay Partnership and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. So essentially, we've raised all of that money, and we're down to about $95,000, which we're looking to raise. And like Patrick said, we've been working with the Conservation Commission and really hopeful that the town will be interested in partnering. What I can do is just have Jack give you a little bit of a history on the farm, but I'm definitely here for questions, sort of be interactive from this point forward.
Just to remind you, you need to be near the microphone.
Thank you. That would have been I'm not used to that. Jack, do you want to step up to the mic?
Good evening. Well, we bought the land in 1978. We had another farm out on Knights Hill and Epping towards Raymond. And I had hunted this land and and really liked what I saw in the soils, and approached the then owner that was not using the land. And unfortunately, there was a fire and the house burnt down in '76. The owner liked the idea that I was farming, and I said I'd like to buy the land, and because I had started to clear some of it and put it back in production. And so after much thought, they came back and said, yep, we'd like for you to farm it. So we closed in '78 and started clearing the land, because there was only 5 acres that was cleared. So since then, we've cleared 75 acres. And this field here is 45 acres. And it's it's been a lot of fun. And we have that barn there is the barn that we use for cattle and for equipment. And we run a pasture operation. We raise all our own crops. It's run as an organic farm. It was certified organic by the state about 20 years ago. It's not certified today, only because paying the fee for it just doesn't make sense. So stop that. And so one year we'll pasture the cattle from the right of the screen to the left, and then the next year we move them in the center field, and then in the fall we move them in the front fields, and that helps us fertilize the land and saves on use of equipment, because the cattle can deliver it where we want it. And then we have across the street, which is already in the conservation easement, was where we raise the sheep. And we have a flock of Katahdins, and they're an organic flock, and been raising sheep and cattle since 1979. And so I don't know what questions you may have, but, if any.
You wanna start?
I do. First, is Epping contributing? Since this parcel is in both communities.
Yeah, no, we haven't reached out to Epping because there is really very little land. It's a very small sliver in the town of Epping. So we chose to reach out and work with the Newmarket Conservation Commission, particularly because of the contiguous nature of the Clark Farm, New Roots Farm, Wigan Farm, Tuttle Swamp. That's really an area you guys have put a lot of work into over the years, and so it's why we.
To play devil's advocate, it is also going to be contiguous to Lee Limpress's and those conservations on the Epping side as well, so it's beneficial to them as well.
Yep.
I apologize, I might have missed it. No public access, but public access.
Public access will be affirmative public access. It's
Okay.
required. They allow, that's something that all LCHIP projects require. But it does allow the landowner, if they have, cows in the field or an active agricultural area, to fence that off.
Are there any other comments, questions?
Do you know where the public access would be? What road it'd be from?
Yeah, we were talking about that actually before the meeting. So a lot of people access the property right now just at the power lines. There's sort of an area to pull off, and it's an easy access. There's already a little bit of a worn trail that heads up there, and then that connects with a lot of the trails that the Clarks have cut through the forest.
What road is that off of?
Camp Lee
So
Road.
it's off Camp Lee. Okay.
Yep. That's also a snowmobile corridor,
Okay.
and where they access.
Cool, thanks.
So, two other questions when it referred, so you're actually gonna be accessing the town, the easement through Epping, cause Camp Lee Road's in Epping.
Yep.
Correct.
Will there be signage at the opening of the trail of, well, the other thing is, before I get that far, do we have right from the power company to cross onto their land?
It's not their
Access.
land, it's
Okay.
Mr.
Still
Clark's.
my land.
Okay.
We've given them a permanent right, but
Just wanna make sure, any signage will give credit to the town of Newmarket for the easement?
We can certainly talk about that. Something we generally don't do on private lands. It's one thing if the town is buying the land, you provide parking, you have signage. We usually don't require that of private landowners who are working with us, but that's certainly open for discussion.
You wanna know procedurally what we have to do?
Sure.
The only thing I would add is that, in today's world, a lot of the access or the way people find out about trails is they do use what's called the All Trails app. And so as this property gets used, it will be added to that app in terms of people will know they can access this and here's how I can access it. And they'll even be able to see some of the trails that Jack's cut on the property. So people will be able to see, and we certainly won't keep it a secret, that they're allowed to access this property, and we'll make sure that they're aware of that.
And that we gave the money.
Well, yeah.
That's the key.
I'm sorry I wasn't here for the beginning, I had another commitment, but I was looking for how many acres
It's
total?
about 210.
I was trying to find it.
And it's at
Oh, okay, thank you.
70%. What's the forest to farm ratio?
Ooh, that's a good question. Is it 50 acres on that side?
which
On the eastern side?
I,
That field?
100,
No, just the field.
just the field, 23 acres of fields. And then there's the forest land that goes beyond there down to the Lamprey River. So when we did the first conservation easement on the land, it was 10 years ago, and we wanted to protect the river frontage. And so we did it on the house side and protected the river. We had over a mile of frontage on that river because of the way it serpentines back and forth. So if you follow that, it was over a mile, but that was just 100 acres. So
And-
the total farm was 320 acres that we bought.
I have a couple comments, seeing no other lights or anything. A few things. So I love seeing all the partners that have to come together for a project like this. We've talked about that with other projects, other large scale projects that have happened in town, and I know how much work goes into kind of putting all of those pieces together, so I appreciate all of the work that you all have done. I also look at this map with the color-coded map, and I think it's exciting to see all of this green and purple. I think it's really, it's one of the things that makes Newmarket, in my opinion, a special place, that we have all of this conserved land. So, again, I appreciate all of the work that you guys have done, and the fact that you have made it a priority to conserve your land. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, did you have a comment? Yeah.
I'll echo what the chair said. I'm also really pleased, but I also recognize that the opportunities usually there's a window of time to act. But I wanted to go back to what the administrator was asking about with Epping. Is there a window or is there a way to approach Epping to collaborate on this, or have you already eliminated that as a possibility?
The reason the land trust hasn't approached them yet is we were working with them on other projects. So quite frankly, we had a full slate. I'd be more than happy to go visit with their conservation commission. Like I said, it's not something that we chose to do because we had to prioritize our time. It's taken a tremendous amount of time to bring those other funding sources in, and which is one of the reasons why I haven't pursued that yet.
The land, you can go to the tax maps and look at, but the land on the other side of the road, on the east side of Campground Road, it adds up to about 4 to 5 acres. It's a strip. The towns have changed the line 3 times since I've owned it. And so, but if you step off of Campground Road where that field is, 10 feet into the field, you're now in Newmarket. So it follows the road. When the road bends, it still goes straight. And so Epping, when we did the first easement, all that land was in Epping. The house is in Epping. Our land backs up to Lee. So on the north side of our land, we're right in Lee. On the east side, we're Newmarket. And so as you further go down Campground Road, you run out of Epping. But I mean, you couldn't put a house lot or you couldn't put anything on that land because it's just not deep enough. It has the frontage, but it's not no more than 25 feet off the road.
And I can see from their perspective why that would be probably hard from their perspective to say it's such a thin sliver of land that it's hard for them to see their role in it. I can see that. It's 99% in Newmarket.
But we're using Newmarket money in Epping.
Well, we're using the land that people in Newmarket are going to be accessing is going to be mostly in Newmarket. Yes, there's a tiny little.
I've got to just check we also check. I believe
sure.
you can use Newmarket money in Epping in certain conservation situations. So I'll have to check that when we do the legal review. But
Yeah.
understand it's.
With lots of other funding sources.
Right.
So the $95,000 maybe
Completely
is-
understand, but
Maybe it's
if there's a
Newmarket.
wrench, if there's something that may blow up because it's
Right.
2 different communities,
Yeah.
just want to, again,
And
I'm
one
playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a really good point, actually. And, one thing I could think of doing, again, this would, we'd follow up with legal counsel, but perhaps the executory interest for Newmarket, we could describe and have it covering only, Newmarket land, if they were amenable to that.
Yeah, I mean, we have currently the Smith Farm property that stretches across both Newmarket and Durham, and that was really a very similar kind of situation where, Newmarket actually monitors the entire property. So, yes, town boundaries exist, but we try and work together, and I think this is mostly a Newmarket situation, but yeah, I think it's worth looking into. It always is.
Counselor Cass, was this from before?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Town Administrator?
Procedurally,
Yes.
what will happen now is I need to see the easement. Then I'll work with our legal counsel to review. After we sign off, we'll present the resolution to the town council for 2 readings. I believe we need to have a public hearing since we're purchasing a right to land or an easement. I'll double check on that. So probably won't be voted on until February at the earliest, just because of holiday schedules and seeing the attorneys and, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing just that might help for you to think about how this runs, and from our perspective, we have to shop the easement deed through NRCS, that's the feds, LCHIP, and it would go through the town. But what we almost always do before we put all of the effort into that is have the vote committing the funds, because otherwise, you do all this work with the town involved, and then the the vote, if the vote didn't pass. So I would just encourage to move towards that public hearing, and then you're more than welcome to look at the easement, the draft easement, but all of the real final steps in that regard of drafting would happen after the vote.
So you're asking us to vote on something that's not final?
Well, the template is there, which is what we've negotiated with the landowner. LCHIP has seen it, but that's not something that every word is finalized. You're committing the funds to the project based on the draft easement, but not on the final easement, because that has to go through all of LCHIP, NRCS, and the town.
What if something changes that's not in the benefit of the town?
Well, we would be signing a letter of agreement or something that it stipulates, the things that'll change are small. They're just things, for example, we're not planning to do the survey until all the funding sources are committed. We can't draft the full easement without having the survey language. There are just some legal steps that happen later in the game, and so that part of that is drafting the final easement. But I can provide a draft easement right now. We've already essentially negotiated that.
And I don't believe the funds pass over until all of that is completed,
correct.
right?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
the funds, this is actually very similar to the Tucker property. It's the same situation. There hasn't been any transfer of funds, and there won't be until all of that is worked out. So you're entering into an agreement, but you haven't actually, if the agreement doesn't go through all the hurdles, then you wouldn't actually end up in that situation, so.
Traditionally, the council authorized me to sign the agreement upon acceptable terms. And if not, I come back to the council and say it's not acceptable and we don't do it.
Yep.
Counselor Sanders.
Excuse me. I just wanted to point out that what you're asking for is 9% of the total purchase price, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Great. Thank you again.
Really
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to go right in the meeting, or do you want to take up the rest of these?
I'm fine to go right in the meeting, if that's okay with everyone,
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
to go right to the next.
Yeah.
Do we need to adjourn,
Just close the workshop and then call the meeting to order.
do the pledge again?
Now.
They won't even.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and close the workshop, and we will call the regular meeting, I will call the regular meeting to order now at 7:02. And this is the regular meeting of the Newmarket Town Council on December 18th, 2019. So we already did the Pledge of Allegiance, so we're not gonna do that again this evening. And we will start with public forum. If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak. Seeing none, I will close public forum at 7:03. Glasses are over here. The next item on our agenda is to accept the minutes, and the first meeting is for November 20th, 2019 Joint Council and Planning Board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the November 20th, 2019 Joint Council Planning Board meeting.
Second.
I think that if people had changes,
You're supposed to submit them?
Yep,
Yeah.
which I did at
Yep.
about 4 o'clock today, apologize.
Which will be given to the recording secretary to
And if there are any
change.
other changes? No, seeing none, call the roll.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cass.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Abstain.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to 1.
The next would be from our regular meeting on November 20th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 20th, 2019.
Second.
Again, if there are no further changes, I'm not seeing any request, so if you could call the roll, please.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next, we have the December 4th, 2019 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from December 4th, 2019.
Second.
Any questions, changes? These look great. So if you call the roll, please.
Counselor Finch.
Abstain.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont. Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 to 1.
Next, we have the report of the town administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my written report this evening, first, as the council is aware, the town owns a parcel of land off of New Road, which is known as the Wilson property. This property has been purchased by the town about 20 years ago for the purpose of developing an industrial park. This parcel has remained vacant all that time and not collecting any taxes since it's owned by the town. We've been looking at our options for the parcel. Earlier this year, the facilities director and I began to explore locating a solar farm on the property as a way to use the property to benefit the town with minimal impact on the area. Our concern is it's very close to the bay, and any high industrial uses may impact the water in that area. So we're currently working with Revision Energy to locate a solar array on the property. This would be a 25-year agreement with the owner of a system, and we would see income from purchasing energy through the system, a payment in lieu of taxes on the equipment, and in other areas. We would enter into a purchase power agreement with the company. A solar purchase and power agreement is a financial agreement where a developer arranges for the design, permit, financing, and installation of the solar energy system on the town's property at no cost. The developer sells the property generated to the host customer at a fixed rate that is usually much lower than the local utility rate. This lower rate price serves to offset the customer's purchase of electricity from the grid, while the developer receives the income of these sales of electricity as well as any tax credits and other incentives generated from the system. PPAs, again, usually last from 10 to 25 years, and developer remains responsible for the operation and maintenance of the system during the agreement. At the end of the contract term, the customer may be able to extend the PPA, have the developer remove the system, or choose to buy the solar energy system from the developer. Traditionally, in municipalities, it's actually even shorter than the 25 years. It's more in the average of 5 to 10 years that happens, that we have the option of buying the system or looking to see what we can do next. Currently, the town attorney is reviewing a letter of intent between the town and Revision Energy. They will serve as our agent in securing a system developer and overseeing the project. After this, they'll have to go before any permitting boards on the state and local levels, and ultimately the town council will approve any agreements. So we are moving forward with that to use the Wilson property. For McAllen Dam, the town finished the bidding process for the McAllen Dam renovations. We received 3 bids. All of them were over the $2 million bonding authority. The lowest by Sumco is $2,181,763. The facilities director has been working with the town engineer to lower that price, and we do believe we have a price now significantly lower than our bonding authority by a few $100,000. We're still making sure all the T's crossed and I's are dotted before we come forward to the council for the next step. But I have some good news there. In my unwritten report tonight, I have some good news and some not so good news. The first part of the good news is we've been named by the Nature Conservancy as its community partner of the year for the Lumberland Creek project, and we'll be receiving an award on January 31st in the afternoon. Any councilors would like to attend? It's in Concord, so maybe a little difficult, but I plan on attending that afternoon. Also, on the other side, I regret to inform the council that I have accepted the resignation of Greg Marles, our facilities director, effective 30 days. We will be advertising that position after the first of the year, and it will still be a shared position between the school and the town. The chair and I met with the chair of the school board and the superintendent of schools yesterday. Time was of the essence, so I tried to get everybody in as soon as possible before I notified the council to make sure everything was still lined up and we're still on the same page. So I will be advertising that for after the first of the year. And I just want to wish the council a very Merry Christmas and happy and healthy New Year. And our next meeting is scheduled for January 1st. I don't believe anybody wants to meet on the New Year's Day. So either we could have a meeting the following week, or we could just have one meeting in January. I believe we have only one resolution in the first reading, so we can just vote out at the end of, it's regarding to placing a question on the ballot on sports betting. We can hold off on that if you don't want to meet.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you're fine. You get plenty of time.
Okay.
Sounds
Yep.
good.
That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Dumont.
Yes, two questions for the town administrator. In working with Revision Energy on the Wilson property, do they have any studies or data that might show the output that could potentially be generated from a solar array there, or the feasibility?
We do. I don't have it in front of me, though.
No problem,
Yep.
as long as the data is available.
Yep.
And then, can you just elaborate on any potential expenses that the town may incur by having or partnering with them out there? Is it just the purchase of the power?
Yeah, and that's would be cheaper than what we are currently
Perfect.
receiving. So, a lot of municipalities have been doing this. Durham, Lee, Durham's actually in Lee, Dover, Portsmouth. Dover's that was a very publicized one because it's actually on their high school. So yeah, a lot of municipalities are starting to enter into these agreements.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Cast.
I just wanted to express my regret that Mr. Marles is leaving us. I've been very impressed with his work and initiative, and I think he's done quite a lot for the town in his short tenure here. So I wish him well. So I know in general the staffing questions are the provenance of the administrator, but if you would share with us if there's any role that the shared service has played in that, if you're going to get some feedback from him, and just let us know.
Yep.
So we can revisit that if that's something that
Absolutely.
we need to.
Seeing no other comments, I have a couple. I'm just gonna try and pull this up, sorry. It's under the department reports, and I have a question about, the Public Works, monthly report, and let me just find it, sorry. So some of the numbers aren't quite working for me, and I went back and I looked because I thought maybe it was me, and that I was missing something, and there's two in particular. Well, the first, I will mention that the overtime on in the Public Works Department chart is significantly higher than where we were at last year, and so I don't know if there was a reason for that. Year to date, last year it was 13.9, and right now it's 23.4. So I don't know if that had something to do with Lumberland.
Let me check. I assume it does
That's what I kind of thought.
because they were the main crew out there. I'll also check to see because we have had more snow incidents at this point in time than we did last year at the same point in time. So I'll just check that as well.
Well, and the salt. So, according to this, the budget is at 85, but for 2019 we spent nothing, and that's
not
inaccurate.
You're right. Yeah, they just pulled that up. That's not correct.
I went and I looked because I thought that just doesn't seem right. And same with the gas diesel.
Yeah.
The budget amounts are correct, but when I looked at the gas, I mean, and even that, the numbers just don't work.
Yeah, I'll check with the director.
That would be great. And that was my only comment. So seeing no others, we will move on To committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Counselor Dumont.
The budget committee met Monday. We had our public hearing for the town's proposed budget. It was passed by the budget committee, a vote of 7-3. There were 3 vocal members of the committee that took issue with some of the direction that we were taking. There was one motion to cut the budget by $700,000. There was a second motion to cut the budget by $325,000. Both were made with the idea that perhaps the town was being somewhat irresponsible or not necessarily aware of the impact of the taxes to our taxpayers. I think that those concerns, personally speaking, were a little bit unfounded. And I think that the budget that we had presented to them was fairly sound. So I'm happy to say that it did pass, but I would expect that there may be some questions that arise as we get closer to the March voting date. Some folks are probably going to ask why 3 people voted against it, but in general, I would recommend that you go back and just watch the meeting on the video recording. It would certainly be helpful in my opinion, but that's all.
Counselor Cast.
Planning board met last Tuesday, and I think the main thing I'd say is they've got a subcommittee to look at, in regard to economic development and coming out of our joint meeting, what the planning board can do and advise the council on to promote that.
Great. Is that all?
Yep.
Counselor Sanders.
We did have a meeting of the Newmarket Business Association Board. Because of the weather and Christmas, it was not a quorum. I did take the opportunity, though, to reiterate to them again about the opening on the Arts and Tourism Committee. So hopefully we'll be getting, I see we have 1 tonight. I'm hoping we can fill the rest of the committee fairly quickly.
That's fantastic. Seeing no others, I just wanted to make one comment about the public hearing. There was virtually no public comment at the public hearing. I was the only person who spoke, and so I don't know why I feel the need to say that, but I mean there were very few people in attendance, and really no one had anything to say. I get the feeling, I get the sense, being on social media, that people may actually have some concerns about the management of the town. But if people have those concerns, they need to voice them in the appropriate venue, which would be, if you have concerns about the budget, then or finances of the community, then the public hearing would be the perfect opportunity to voice those concerns. And the appropriate venue for people who make decisions to hear the concerns. So they don't always get heard on social media. Councilor Sanders.
I had a quick question. We spent an entire day here talking with the heads of the department about their budgets. Is that something that the budget committee would have been allowed to sit in on had they chosen to? And I do not recall any of them.
Yeah, they were
being
not.
here.
Well, they could not participate since it's not a budget committee meeting.
Right.
They could sit and listen. We televised the meeting,
Right.
still online. They more than
So they would have been able to hear all
Absolutely.
the department heads and why they wanted what they wanted, and okay.
Yep. And we offered the budget committee as well that if they have questions, let us know, and we will bring department heads in.
Okay,
So
thank you.
And that also goes for the capital improvement process, and anybody is welcome to come to those and sit in and listen to the whole process and how we come to, or the committee comes to those decisions and how it's presented.
Okay.
Councilor Dumont.
I'm actually going to withdraw that.
Oh.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention too, along those lines, that in addition to the public hearing, prior to the public hearing, the town administrator does a presentation to the budget committee. So they certainly have the opportunity to ask questions and to hear why, why those choices are made, so. That's all I had to say.
Just to
Oh, yeah.
go along with that too, it's when I give the presentation, we ask for questions. If I can't answer the question, that's when we bring the department head in. It was getting to the point at one point, it was weeks of meetings because it was more of a dog and pony show of bringing each department in, not even to ask questions. And it's like, okay, it's make sure everyone's time is being used correctly, especially this time of year. But I don't think there's very few questions that we've gotten that we don't have an answer for, just because we've already gone through it so many times.
Right. So moving on, we have Resolution 2019-2020-14, and that's the downtown TIF transfer funds from CIP.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-2020-14, resolution relating to transferring funds from the downtown TIF Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
And Town Administrator, did you have some comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution is a resolution that has to be adopted annually. All the money from the TIF is in a capital reserve fund, and the bond that we issued to do the downtown project did not give us authority to pay off the bond early. So annually, until the bond is done, we have to withdraw the money from the capital reserve fund to pay off the principal and interest. So that's what we're doing.
Councilor Dumont?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, how much is left on that bond?
I believe it's a 20-year bond, so probably about another 10 years.
Okay, thanks.
Seeing no other comments, if you would call the roll.
Councilor Finch.
Aye.
Councilor Sanders.
Aye.
Councilor Dumont.
Aye.
Councilor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councilor Cast.
Aye.
Councilor Burns.
Aye.
Councilor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next, we have Resolution 2019-2020-15, and that's the Moody Point Association Agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-2020-15, the Moody Point Community Association Agreement.
Second.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me. Just to give you a little bit of background on the Moody Point agreement. Moody Point, if you don't know, has their own water system and has their own source supply. However, their source supply has saltwater intrusion, so they need to find another water source. And they were part of the bond that we put up for water improvements. So what is supposed to take place and what this agreement does is the town of Newmarket will extend the water main from Bay Road to their water system. Once that water main is installed and they start receiving water, they'll receive quarterly water bills like other water users, and they'll be paying betterment fees until the bond for that, for the cost of that water main to be installed.
Councilor Dumont?
Yeah, is there a timeline on expanding out to them?
No, we're working as fast as we can. So I think what we're looking to do is to design it this coming year and then construct it in the spring of 2021.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because of bidding, and we're trying to line it up with other like projects to get the best prices we can get.
Thank you.
Councilor Cast?
In the agreement, I read that there's one owner out at Moody Point who's decided not to be included, and I just was curious how that works in the future if they need to change their mind. Or
That's up to the association on how that works. The association still retains the operation of their water system.
Mhm.
We are just supplying them water.
The
Okay.
agreement's not with the homeowners,
Yes.
it's with the association.
Correct.
I'm just reading the agreement between the town of Newmarket and the Moody Point Community Association. That's where it was noted.
Correct.
Yes.
So
But, yeah, but so if the association some point in time renegotiates with that one individual
Mhm.
to join, that doesn't come to us, it goes to
Okay.
them.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. I was reading through the agreement, and as I had questions, they were answered. So, I mean, it was it was very thorough. One of my questions
Many
was.
meetings.
There was a lot of meetings, yes.
One of my questions was sort of similar to Councillor Cast, and that was, what would happen if someone on Cushing Road, who's not a part of Moody Point, wanted to tie into the system, and so that was answered in the agreement, and yeah, I think it's very thorough.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any other requests to speak, so if you could call the roll, please.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 2019-2020-16, the McIntosh and Tucker Wells Water Treatment Plant.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-2020-16, the McIntosh and Tucker Wells Water Treatment Plant.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, before you receive the presentation, there's an error in the resolution. Was never written in the resolution how much money or where the money would be withdrawn from.
There is no money withdrawn for this one. This is coming out of the Drinking Water Fund, Trust Fund. So there's no,
But there needs to be if we're receiving a grant, are we receiving a grant?
this is part of the $4 million that we're getting to construct that facility. It's part of that.
I would ask that the council amend the resolution to include the terms, let me bring up the resolution just so I can have it right in front of me. Authorize the town administrator to enter an agreement with Wright Pierce not to exceed $265,000.
Okay.
That's, somebody can make a motion to amend.
I'll make a motion to amend, to include, is it?
To allow the town administrator to, after the words enter into agreement with Wright Pierce Engineering, for an amount not to exceed $265,000.
Okay, to add the amount not to exceed $265,000.
And do we have to specify where? Does it matter where?
No. It's coming from bond proceeds.
Yeah, it comes from the, we've won a grant and a bond from the New Hampshire Water Drinking Water Fund. So that's where all the money's coming from. But you still have to approve the engineering of it.
Do you need a second
Yeah,
on that?
second.
Oh, sorry, second.
Great. Any questions about the amendment?
No, makes sense.
So if you call the roll.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Now to the,
To the resolution.
Yeah.
So we already had the motion and second. So if there are any other comments about the resolution itself, now that it's been amended? Seeing none. If you can call the roll.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. 7-0, sorry.
And then next, we have Resolution 2019-2020-17, the Bennett and Sewell Well improvements.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-2020-17, the Bennett and Sewell Well improvements.
Second.
Did you wanna, no.
This is part of the $12.2 million water improvement projects. We have already done the engineering for the preliminary engineering. This is just to complete the final engineering and for the bidding for the project.
Seeing no comments? Questions? You can call the roll.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have nominations and appointments, and the first is Chris Clemmer for the Arts and Tourism Ad Hoc Commission with a term to expire December of 2022.
I will make a motion to approve Chris Clemmer to the Arts and Tourism Commission with the term expiration of 2022.
I don't see any comments. I just wanted to make a quick comment, and that is that I love seeing, like, this is someone who has been involved in the arts and is relatively new to the community, and participating in this committee is great. So I just wanted to make that comment, and if you could call the roll.
Counselor Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And then next we have Dale Pike for the Ad Hoc Riverfront Advisory Committee.
I will make a motion to approve Dale Pike for the Riverfront Advisory Committee with a term expiring of 2021.
Second.
And I'm gonna comment again in a similar way, not someone who is new to the town, but has served the town in many other ways and other capacities, and has so much to offer, and so we appreciate you, stepping up for this new assignment. So if you call the roll, oh, sorry, Councilor Dumont.
Glad you're coming back, Dale.
Who's this guy?
We're gonna rope you in.
Ready?
Call the roll.
Counselor
Yes.
Finch.
Aye.
Counselor Sanders.
Aye.
Counselor Dumont.
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper.
Aye.
Counselor Cast.
Aye.
Counselor Burns.
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And then next on the agenda is our resolutions in the first reading. And I have Resolution 2019-20, operation of sports betting in the town of Newmarket. Whereas earlier this year, whereas earlier this year, the New Hampshire State Legislature passed and the governor signed into law an act establishing sports betting. And whereas the question of whether sports betting should be allowed within the town of Newmarket should be placed before Newmarket voters at the next municipal election consistent with the legislation. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the question of whether to allow sports betting within the town of Newmarket shall be placed on the official ballot at the regular municipal election on March 10th, 2020. And that the wording of the question on the official ballot shall be, shall we allow the operation of sportsbook retail locations within the town or city? And that the town council shall hold a public hearing on the ballot question at least 15 days, but not more than 30 days, before the municipal election on March 10th, 2020. That pursuant to RSA 287-I:6, failure to pass this question will not prohibit internet or mobile wagering. First reading, December 18th, 2019. Councilor Cast?
I'm sorry. Oh, it's first reading, so sorry.
And any correspondence to the town council?
We do. I received an email on Sunday. Dear Newmarket Town Council, I'm writing to ask that I be allowed to resign from my appointment to the Newmarket Waterfront Advisory Committee. At the time that I applied, I was unaware that the town was establishing an Arts and Tourism Committee. Although I was on the Old Riverwalk Committee, my background is heritage tourism, and during my career as an executive director of several New Hampshire Main Street communities, I was responsible for directing volunteers, permitting, and organizing over 350 special events. My wife Shirley and I organized the Lamprey Village Players from 1974 to 1980, and when we owned the Rockingham Ballroom, we were producers and directors of the Rockingham Theater Company from 1987 to 1994. My Bachelor's of Science degree from UNH is in Tourism Planning and Development, and I was part of the study group that did a tourism report back for the Newmarket back in the mid-1990s. So as you can imagine, my heart, expertise, and interests lie more towards the Arts and Tourism Committee, and I will be applying for that appointment for that committee instead. Respectfully, Michael A. Provo. it would be proper to make a motion to accept his resignation.
I'll make a motion to accept Michael Provo's resignation to the, was it the Riverfront?
Well, yeah.
Riverfront Advisory Committee.
Second.
I'll just say that I had a long talk with Michael, and he has assured me that he would still be involved in the Riverfront, just not as an active committee member. He has so much information about Newmarket and about both aspects. I mean, his planning work, he just has a lot to add on the Riverfront end, but clearly his heart and the majority of his experience really lies with the arts, and I think that he'll be a force to be reckoned with on that committee. So I think he'll have so much to add, and I appreciate his interest. So with that, the roll, please.
Councillor Finch.
Aye.
Councillor Sanders.
Aye.
Councillor Dumont.
Aye.
Councillor Kuiper.
Aye.
Councillor Cast.
Aye.
Councillor Burns.
Aye.
Councillor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Was there any other correspondence?
There
from
is none.
council? And then closing comments by town councilors. Councilor Kuiper?
I just wanted to reiterate what the chief had said in his report about a parking committee, that if one was formed, I would be happy to join. And also, did anyone respond to the other letter we got?
About the dam?
Yeah.
The
I
chair
did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that, okay.
Yeah.
I did as well.
And it was, it came to all of us, and certainly, whenever that happens, anyone is welcome to respond.
Okay.
Just not
Traditionally-
respond to all.
Right.
Yeah, okay, gotcha, yeah.
And traditionally, when if it's addressed to individual councils like that is, I do not bring those to the meetings because they're already addressed. If it's addressed to the council as the body, that's when we come to the
Okay,
meeting.
okay, thank you for the,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Councilor Burns.
Now seems like it's fast approaching, so I wanted to bring it up that very quickly we're going to be moving towards the deliberative session, and so I just wanted to mention it so that people kind of get that on their radar that that's coming up, because it will happen very quickly once after the holidays.
As well as filing periods.
That was my
So
next
people-
thing, as well as filing periods, which is generally is the last week in January, correct?
10 days prior to the 31st,
Right.
so it's usually the 20th. I have to look, but yeah.
Right, but about the last week in January. So, with many things going on in town, I would say that the best way to have your voice heard is to sign up and put yourself out there and get, join a board, join a committee, join a council. And I would definitely recommend doing that. So, and attending meetings.
Absolutely. Councilor Dumont?
Yeah, first I'll just echo what Councilor Burns said. All great points. It's very important that, if you want to be involved, that you just take the step to go out and do it. And the thing that I wanted to mention was I don't think we've met since we did the tree lighting, but we had a tree lighting downtown. It was fairly well attended. It was bitter cold outside. It was a great time. So I just wanted to thank the rec department for hosting that for us, and the school kids who came out, and all those sponsors and the supporters who helped make that happen. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and everything. It was a good time.
I agree. I have something that I probably should have brought up under committee reports, and I apologize. I just need to find it. But we talked about maybe a month ago about the coastal resiliency. We can appoint a member of the board to that. We can appoint a member to that board. I guess is probably the more accurate way to say that. And I've received now a second email from them saying, who are you going to appoint? So I meant to bring this up earlier and I had forgotten, so I apologize. But where we're not going to meet again for another month, I think it's probably, in the interest of time, we should probably do that. Was there anyone who was interested in serving on that. I think as I said in the email, I don't know what the time commitment is. I imagine that there will be travel involved because it will probably happen in Concord.
Actually, traditionally, if it's a coastal one, they'll try to find some place over here.
Coastal,
Yeah.
okay. But could be anywhere.
Traditionally,
in
it's a
the area.
morning during the work week. So,
So that might be somewhat limiting for people, but if there, my first question is if there's anyone interested in serving on that committee.
I'd be interested. I guess the assumption would be it would be like a meeting a month, a meeting. Is that
traditionally, it's a meeting a month.
okay? I'd be interested. I could make it work.
I was also interested. So maybe we can, Casey and I can put our heads together on that.
Well, if you're more local, travel would probably be easier for you then. Yeah, well, where I'm working about 45 minutes away, so
Yeah.
I'm interested in it, but the travel would be tough for me.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in more
Yeah.
local,
especially it's a morning meeting.
And I would recommend reading the actual legislation.
Which I sent.
Yeah, it's very like how you gonna relocate cemeteries with coastal flooding and those kind of items. It's not. Yeah, it's more nitty gritty kind of stuff on how you're gonna do it.
So is it something that you would be interested in doing? Because
I'm
I think
still
we probably
thinking about it, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just because it ties in with some of my other interests.
Right.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah.
are you at the point where we could make a motion?
Oh, do we have to make a motion?
Yeah, we need to appoint someone.
I don't think we're gonna meet between
No.
now and the next meeting.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
I could tell you
that's true.
we haven't met, or they haven't told the New Hampshire Municipal Association's representative
Okay.
that they've had
All
a
right.
meeting
So,
because I haven't gone.
so we've got,
So the
you
next,
have a month to think it over.
I will.
Okay,
I'll have an answer before that.
wonderful. And I will make sure that I don't forget to mention it. And then I just had one other item that I wanted to mention, and I'm hoping that I'm not opening up a can of worms by saying this, but I probably am. So there's a petition that I've seen online, and the petitioner is listed as the town of Newmarket. And I just wanted to make it clear that the town of Newmarket has nothing to the official town. It has nothing to do with the town of Newmarket. So I want to just put that out there because I don't want any
Yeah,
misunderstandings.
this is I
It
just
says
pulled
the
up
town of
the
Newmarket.
petition and just to.
So I-
Yeah, and it says the town of Newmarket shall have this petition to the Newmarket School Board. Nobody from the town has started.
No.
This is not a town petition.
Is that something that needs to be corrected? Because that sounds a
we
little
don't
bit
have
of
the-
I
misinformation.
don't have the authority to do that. I don't even know who the
It's
head
not-
petitioner is.
Right, like I clicked on it and it doesn't show a name, so.
We would ask that whoever's the petitioner to remove the term town of Newmarket from it.
Would it be beneficial to have your office put out a statement, like officially? Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
something.
Do you mind if I ask what?
That's a
we are
little
like-
misinformation.
It's
It's regarding the
The school.
school, so
Okay.
it has nothing to do with,
Alright.
and it's clearly like townspeople of Newmarket,
but not
but
the
it's not the
the town
town.
of Newmarket.
Yeah, I think we need to do something about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think so too.
so. And I kinda connected those dots right
Mhm.
before the meeting tonight, so, I know that there's a couple people who I imagine I could probably reach out to via social media. If other people have, contacts through social media, it wouldn't be a bad idea. And that's all I had, and the only last thing is I wish everyone, happy holidays and, happy and healthy new year, and we will see you again in January 2020.
All right.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays.